For those joining us in person and online, we're moving back from closed at 1:23 p.m. In the closed session, the board conducted business under section 44(2) of the Community Safety and Policing Act, including confidential business related to labor relations, finance, and legal matters. Members, I'll look for any disclosures of interest. Seeing none, I'll look for any introduction of new business. Seeing none, I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes of the February 19th, 2026 London Police Service Board open meeting. Moved by member Lang, seconded by member Wallace. Any comments? Seeing none, anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. Item 2.1 in your agenda, LPSB committee assignments, member Wallace.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, after a discussion with you, and I think it's only appropriate that we have a fuller board to do the committee assignments. So I'm going to move that this item be moved to the next board meeting in April now.
So motion on the floor to defer this report to the April board meeting, moved by member Wallace, seconded by member Stevenson. Any comments on it? Seeing none, call the question. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Item 2.2 in your agenda, the Canadian Association of Police Governance 2027 conference for a proposal to host the event in London, and I will turn it over to our Chief Governance Officer to speak more about this.
Okay, yes, thank you, Chair, through you. So the Canadian Association of Police Governance is the national association that represents the boards across Canada. So there's 80% of boards are in this association. And this report is speaking to a request for proposals that they put out to host the 2027 conference. And the request here is for the board to consider us submitting a proposal. Melanie, she's been chatting with Tourism London, and they have graciously offered up their services and assisting in compiling information to see if we have the capacity to host. The benefits of hosting are outlined in the request for proposal, which we also put in the package. They include obvious benefits to the economy, but also highlighting the work that's going on here, both at the governance and at the policing level.
Members, any questions?
You need a mover?
Yes, we do. So the motion was to authorize the chair and the chief governance officer to submit a proposal on behalf of the board in response to the Canadian Association of Police Governance request for proposals to host the 2027 CABG annual conference, moved by member Wallace, seconded by member Stevenson. Anyone opposed? Oh, member Wallace, go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Is it a weekend event or is it during the week?
It's usually during the week.
Oh, it's during the week.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to support it and happy to work on it coming. You just have to have it after August 17th of 2027. Because I'm on my 40th anniversary trip out of the country.
All right, we'll put that in the proposal.
Thanks.
All right, so any further comments? Yeah, member
No,
Stevenson.
just that I think it's great and exciting opportunity for London, and grateful to see this on here that we would put our city in for consideration.
Thank you. Last call and comments. Seeing none, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much.
Reduce travel costs.
That is true. So moving to item number 3 in your agenda, under financial services, the year-end position and reserve fund balance report 2603 FF01. This report outlines the year-end financial position and reserve fund balances and seeking approvals regarding the reserve fund and the chief's contingency fund. The finance committee has an opportunity to review this report in detail as well. I'm going to ask member Stevenson if she has any comments or preamble beforehand, and then I'm going to turn it over to our chief administrative officer. So member Stevenson, to you first.
Okay, thank you. So the only comment I have, thank you for the report and all of the work on there, is when we see this report come publicly and it talks about the opening balance on the reserve, for those who might see it and think that it was higher than what they were expecting, I just wondered if we could get a comment from the CAO in terms of just clarifying any questions that might arise around that.
Absolutely. CAO Ramkasoon.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. So specifically on the reserve, the $40 million includes the $5.6 million that we ended in 2025 with a surplus, which is as part of recommendation number 1. I did have a chance to conversed with the town following the council meeting this morning. And what they actually do, and a recommendation for us is that because the projects were committed in 2025, the recommendation is that $6 million be included in the list of committed projects in 2025 instead of 2026, because it was approved by the board in 2025. And generally speaking, that's how they approach the reserve. The reserve statement is not a statement that goes for audit. It's an internal document that we share internally. So the recommendation would be as a easy remedy to show those committed projects in the year it was approved, and which is consistent with the approach taken by the city of London.
Thank you, Member Stevens.
Perfect. And I apologize. I realize I jumped to questions right away. So yeah, thank you for that. And I'll let the CAO present the report.
Perfect. Mr. Ramkissoon, over to you.
Thank you. The report you have in front of you is an overview of the year in performance of 2025. So just quickly, high level, we had a budget of $186 million. We ended with a $5.6 million surplus. The report goes on to just provide an overview of the different areas, personnel costs, and where that surplus came from. And the report goes on to provide a recommendation of the reconciliation for the reserve dollars, and that's where the conversation came out this morning. So when we consider the surplus in 2025, we did end the year with $14.1 million in surplus. However, those committed projects was not included in that $40 million, which is part of the conversation that we just had. We will correct that. And again, we have three reserve funds: the benefits reserve, the police service reserve, the sick leave reserve. All of the surplus was recommended to go into the police service reserve, bringing that number to 2025 of $14.1 million. But again, subject to the board's approval, we will now put the committed projects back to 2025, which will bring that number down and will now allow the number to fall within the target that the board has set for itself. So with that in mind, Chair, I will turn it over to you to address any questions or to ask any questions.
Thank you. Member Stevenson.
I'm happy to move the recommendations that are here in the report. I wonder, just with that clarification, if we could just amend the motion to also include just an update on the report to reflect that that the reserve fund balance is truly at 8 million starting 2026. And if we just have that corrected on the report, I think that's great.
Yeah, and if we could have that sent back as well, was that friendly?
Sure.
The report sent back to the board?
Yeah.
Perfect. Second, so moved by Member Stevenson, so seconded by Member Lang, and just for the record, so the recommendations or the motion is that the London Police Service Board approve the contribution of $5.679 million change to the Police Service Reserve Fund, RF 10100. The London Police Service Board approve a one-time draw of $463,155.59 from the Police Service Reserve Fund, RF 10100, to cover unforeseen capital expenses under PP 429125 police equipment and PP 429525 police technology equipment as approved under the Chief's delegated authority. And that 3, the London Police Service Board approved restoring the Chief's contingency to $500,000, recognizing that a purchase was made in 2025. And that 4, that the updated chart within the 2025 year-end position and reserve fund balances be corrected to reflect the $6 million approximately being contributed to 2025's budget instead of 2026, and that being reported back to the board. Moved by Member Stevenson and seconded by Member Lang. I'll open up to any questions from members. Member Wallace, yes.
So thank you for the report. It's the first time I've seen the financial report, how we do it. And the point that I want to make is that, when you say out loud 5.6 million surplus, sounds like a lot of money, but it's only 3% of your total budget. And so I want to, it shows that in terms of the police service also is good at financial management, that they're not running deficits, begging for money from the city for more money to make up for those deficits. They're managing it correctly. We have a little tiny surplus that goes back in reserves. It's allocated for projects that have been approved by this board and just haven't been spent yet. And so I think it's good financial management here, and I appreciate the report that we see in front of us.
Excellent. Thank you, Member Wallace.
Yeah, just appreciation.
Seeing no other comments or anything from you, CEO Rankasoon?
Nothing with that this time, Chair.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, I'll call the question. Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion as read carries. Thank you very much. I'll turn it to items 4 in your agenda, 4.1 and 4.2. Next, we have 2 important reports and presentations, the hate bias motivated crime report and the missing persons annual report. These 2 reports are accompanying presentations, are being brought forward to the board as a matter of policy and as legislative requirements for the provision of adequate and effective policing. They are an important part of the board's oversight role as they provide visibility into trends, police response, and community impact, ensuring that the delivery of public safety remains responsive to those most affected. I will now turn it over to Deputy Chief Guilford to speak to the report, make some introductions, and anything else that you'd like to add. Deputy.
Thank you very much, and Chair, through you, I'm going to ask you to come forward, Acting Inspector Birch, and just to bring to come forward and introduce our hate crime officer who's going to present on the board report today.
Thank you. I introduce to you Constable Umar Saeed. He's with our hate crime officer within the community mobilization branch.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board, members of the executive command, and members of the public. Thank you for the opportunity to present the 2025 Hate and Bias Motivated Crime Report on behalf of the London Police Service. My name is Constable Umar Saeed, as I've been introduced. And this report is submitted in compliance with Board Policy 010, Provincial Adequacy Standards LE-007, and the Community Safety and Policing Act. The purpose of my presentation today is to provide a summary of key trends, statistics, and our ongoing response to and management of hate and bias motivated occurrences in our community. Just for clarification and some reference, I do have a slideshow prepared here that we can stop. So I'm going to talk about a couple of key items that'll be reflected in our presentation here. Number one thing I want to touch on is that we have a service-wide response model in place when it comes to responding to hate and bias motivated occurrences. Having said that, what that includes is our frontline officers are usually the first responders to these incidents. Hate crime officers then provide investigative support and guidance and follow-up to those officers once those reports are referred to the hate crime office. We apply a victim-centered approach supported by community partners. And one of the key components to our victim-centered approach is our reassurance protocol, which focuses on reducing fear and anxiety, supporting victims, encouraging reporting, and strengthening trust within the community. In 2025, we expanded our capacity with a second hate crime officer, and a third position is forthcoming as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about our hate crime and extremism investigative team, which the London Police Service is a member of. It's a provincial partnership that includes 20 plus police services, and new services are joining every year to make a robust team across the province to manage and deal with hate and bias occurrences. One of the benefits, or several of the benefits that of the LPS being a member of this team is that we get to engage in specialized training for our hate crime officers as well as other members. There's intelligence sharing between the services that are members, and there's also coordinated responses that we can undertake to emerging threats. Before I go forward, I'm just gonna, for clarity, just go over some definitions of what a hate crime and a non-criminal hate incident would involve. So a hate crime, very simply, is any criminal offense motivated by hate or bias toward an identifiable group. And just for clarity as well, an identifiable group, or what consists of, or what makes up an identifiable group, is clearly defined in the Criminal Code and the Canadian Human Rights Code. And a non-criminal hate incident involves similar hate and bias motivation, but does not meet the threshold of being considered a criminal offense. Both are taken seriously, and the LPS treats both occurrences seriously, especially due to the significant impact these occurrences have on individuals and community. One of the key items I want to touch on is victims and offenders. On victims and offenders where charges were laid. So this is specifically speaking to occurrences where a criminal charge was sought and entered into the court system. And for London Police in 2025, of the occurrences where charges were laid, 24 individual offenders were identified, one of which was a repeat offender. There were 28 total victims identified in those occurrences, as a few of those occurrences included multiple victims being victimized by the same offender. And the majority of offenders were male and victims, and the most common pairing was a male offender and a male victim. So key statistics I wanted to go over in terms of charges. There were 70 total occurrences where criminal acts were committed that were motivated, where it was determined that they were motivated by hate or bias. Of those 70, 24 occurrences resulted in the criminal charges where those 24 offenders were identified, and 53 total criminal charges were laid. So as part of those occurrences, some of those occurrences included multiple charges against the same offender, which is why that number is much higher. And for the first time in our history, the LPS laid a charge of public incitement of hatred. That's specified in the Criminal Code of Canada as a hate propaganda charge. It was our first time we were able to formulate grounds to lay that charge. In terms of the 2025 reporting overview, in 2025, 415 occurrences were sent to the hate crime office and reviewed by members of our team. 168 were confirmed as hate related, including 70 hate crimes, which I mentioned in the previous slide. And of those 168, 98 were determined to be non-criminal hate incidents. So as I mentioned, just occurrences where the activity fell short of being considered a criminal offense. Overall, hate-related occurrences have decreased by 5.1% in the city since 2024. And hate crimes are at their lowest level in the past 5 years. However, non-criminal hate incidents saw a significant increase, which may reflect just reflect improved reporting and community engagement. So we're finding out more about just like the non-criminal hate and bias related things as well. In terms of the top 5 targeted communities, the top 5 targeted communities identified in 2025 were the Black, South Asian, 2S LGBTQI plus, Muslim, and Arab. These groups accounted for over 80% of the occurrences with the single bias motivation. Key highlights from that is that the Black community was most frequently targeted with 39 occurrences. That's a 56% increase from 2024. The South Asian community, they were targeted 35 occurrences, and it's the largest increase of a single identifiable group that we identified this year, with over 100% increase. And it included, unfortunately, several violent offenses. And it reflects broader provincial and national trends towards that community in the past year. The 2S LGBTQI plus community, we saw a decrease of 40% in reported incidents. However, there are still concerns surrounding underreporting within that community, which we're working on in community engagement and education. The Muslim and Arab communities both saw notable decreases. However, they still remain among the most impacted groups. With regards to the types of hate crimes we saw, with regards to the types of hate crimes in 2025, violent offenses were the most common at 42.9%, which consisted primarily of level 1 assaults. Property offenses made up 37.1% of the reported occurrences, and the remaining included threats, harassment, and the one hate propaganda offense. This represents a shift from 2024, where property crime was the most prevalent, and this year, unfortunately, it's been violence. So the key concern is that the increase in violence it is the key concern, especially against the visible minority groups. One note to mention is that this year, the Jewish community is not in the top 5, but still maintains they're number 6. And so it's still a concern that they're still just outside of the top 5. However, if we look at scaling, as we've been trying to determine the scaling of the issue, it still remains a concern within the City of London. In terms of training and outreach, we are actively addressing emerging challenges through specialized training of not only our hate crime officers, but our officers at all levels, including patrol officers on the street and all the way up to including our management staff and command staff. Specialized training in hate crime and extremism, we normally provide that through different opportunities for us to attend conferences and other educational opportunities. There's also intelligence sharing with partners, with a focus on that intelligence sharing through HISIT focuses on online hate, protests and emerging threats, which are often dictated by geopolitical events, both in ever evolving sort of space. With victim support and outreach, we continue to provide victim support and community engagement through direct follow-up by hate crime officers, referrals to victim services and different community resources that are available to victims that the police can't necessarily provide ourselves. And there's ongoing reassurance and support. That's through our reassurance protocol, which we've adopted over the past 4 years. And we've adopted that from the Peel Regional Police. And we have, and that reassurance protocol allows us to engage with communities beyond that initial response and quote unquote, keep them in the loop in terms of our investigative processes, legislative limits and authorities, things we can act on, things we can't, and it basically allows us to keep victims and community groups involved in occurrences as they're being managed and dealt with. Our diversity and outreach unit plays a key role in this because they build relationships with the communities, they deliver education and training and participate in events and outreach initiatives, which allows the hate crime officers as well to actively engage in proactive community engagement instead of just being reactive. So we're able to quote unquote piggyback off of our diversity unit and then attend events and engage with the community. It gives us the opportunity to discuss current issues and trends, and as well as provide some education and outreach initiatives like that. So in conclusion, the London Police Service is fully compliant with all reporting standards. We remain committed to compassionate, victim-centered policing, strong investigative practices, and ongoing community engagement. While we've seen a decrease in hate crimes overall, the increase in hate or non-criminal hate incidents and rise in violence highlights the need for continuous vigilance and development of our approach and management of hate and bias-related occurrences. And we'll continue to monitor trends, strengthen partnerships, enhance our response, all with the goal of maintaining a safe, inclusive community forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Constable. Appreciate that. Acting Inspector Birch, is there anything you want to add before I go back to Deputy Chief Guilford?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. And Chair, through you, I just want to talk about scaling for a minute. I know that Constable Syed touched on it briefly, but just for clarity, when we talk about the top five groups with our reported hate crimes, the Jewish community is just outside of that with 7. Now, in saying that, when we're talking about scaling, it's known by us that the Jewish community has a much smaller population than every other group in the top 5. And we wanted to report on that this year. Our problem is that with some of the groups, their numbers that they go back to 2021 Stats Canada survey information in order to get that the numbers of their communities. And we want to compare apples to apples. We want to have accurate data for population sizes through the next StatsCan report that's coming out, so that we can give a more accurate representation of how these hate crimes are, how much of an effect they're having on each of the individual communities.
Thank you,
I
Deputy.
just wanted to add that part.
Further questions, Chief? Is there anything you'd like to add on this?
Yeah, Chair, thank you and through you. So one of the things that we look at from strategic level is although hate crime, criminal incidents are going down, we look at it as, I say, would not be optimistic in that regard. The concern that we have is that 42% of the actual criminal hate crimes involve violence against people. So that's something that is a piece that we take away from the report. The other piece, like the deputy had stated, the Jewish community forms a very small percentage of the larger makeup of London. So although they just are they're number 6 and not listed, that is something that we are very aware of and still prioritize, especially if you look at the global landscape and the landscape of what is happening in Ontario and across Canada. Hate crimes are significantly up across Canada. And it's important to note that hate crimes specifically towards the Jewish community continue to increase. We're also aware of what is happening with the level of violence that has increased, specifically targeting the Jewish community with the synagogues and the shootings that have been occurring outside of London. So that's something to highlight to the board and make sure that the public understands that is something that we are monitoring and we are fully aware of.
Thank you, Chief. Member Wallace.
First of all, thank you, Constable, for the report and Heavy Chief, and I appreciate your update on, because when I first looked at this thing, and well, the one thing that would be great to see what percentage that population is of the overall London population, because I have no idea, and to see which groups on a per capita basis are targeted, and it is concerning about the you pointing out the it's down overall, but the violence piece is up, which is very concerning. I'm not sure if the legislation requires you to do a top 5. But in a future report, I don't mind having just targeted groups and have them all there. It just so that this was a little bit surprising to me that the Jewish community wasn't on this list, just based on what's happening in the news everywhere. I just made the assumption it was possibly happening in London. And but I do appreciate the work that's done, and I think this kind of thing is important. Public forum, that people understand what you guys are facing on a daily basis out there in terms of in this section of criminal code on hate crimes and so on, and what's involved. And I never really thought about the non-criminal part that you highlighted, which was important. So congratulations on the work. I really appreciated this report. It was very interesting to me. I wouldn't mind saying, and Deputy Chief, on what you were saying, that it's hard to compare apples to apples when you don't have the same base to work from, but hopefully that may change. And maybe we do after the next census, we start from there and we use that as a base and we go from census to census. But I just wanted to thank you for the report, and it's a real indicator, that of what our uniformed and non-uniformed people see on the street every day, and the kind of work that you have to tough work that the police service has to face. So appreciate that. Thank you.
Member Ross. Member Lang.
Thank you, Chair. And great report, you guys. Great work. Obviously, there's the trending is disturbing, but just seeing a decrease in the last year is comforting. Through you, Chair, to the Chief. Chief, has there been an additional proactive deployment of resources around areas where you think there could be a potential risk, say, for example, currently with synagogues? I know you've done that in the past with mosques and so forth, but is there a current allocation of resources towards certain areas you have concern about?
Yes, Chair, thank you through you. Yes, it's a great question. So we have directed patrol, sir, and especially around specific holidays, specifically with the Jewish community, elected patrols from our uniform division in the command. They allocate resources to make sure that there is a visibility and presence. Oftentimes, we encourage our members to connect with the community and be seen. Of course, from a proactive perspective, the community feedback from the Jewish community has been very positive and appreciative when they're there. Obviously, what we do is prioritize those significant events, and additionally, we understand Friday there is a large gathering of the Jewish community at various places of worship, and our officers are there often as much as we can. Now, that is competing with operational emergency calls for service. But we are doing everything we can to make sure that we understand how important it is to be visible and present. We've also increasing our hate crime unit, and as well as I shared with the board previously, some of the feedback we've had with the community, specifically the Jewish community and Muslim community, is how to report hate crimes easier to us as a police service. And we're hoping to have in the next few months our online reporting platform to take in hate crimes, hate incidences, and more of an opportunity for the community to report incidents with us. So that will effectively, we hope that it'll actually drive the numbers up, but it's more of an opportunity for the community to connect.
Oh, thank you, Chief.
No problem. Announcements. Seeing none, we don't have a motion. Well, the board will receive it. We really appreciate your time and your thorough presentation and for all the work that you do every single day. So on behalf of the board, thank you very, very much. We'll turn to item number 4.2, the annual missing persons report 2603-02. And once again, I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Guilford.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, Acting Inspector Birch is going to stay exactly where he is.
Change the chairs here.
Switch over to Constable Syed with our missing person coordinator, Cassidy. So,
This is Constable Cassandra Lee. She's a missing person coordinator for the police service, and she's also within the community mobilization.
Welcome, Constable Lee. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you to members of the board, members of the executive and team, members of the public that have joined us here this afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you on this topic. I will be presenting on missing persons investigations, including our mandatory reporting obligations, as well as some oversight as it relates to missing persons investigations dealt with by the London Police Service. So the purpose of this presentation is to report to the board. In accordance with ministry direction, we are obligated to report the number of urgent demands under the Missing Persons Act through Form 7. They're used by the London Police Service. That has to be prepared by April 1st and being published by June 1st of each year. And those statistics have been compiled and provided to the board. And then I will also report on missing persons. I wanted to start off with the definition of a missing persons as it applies under the Missing Persons Act. So both 1 and 2 must be present to define a person as missing. And the definition is fairly simple as you can see before you. The person's whereabouts is unknown. Either the person hasn't been in contact with the person or has fallen outside of their normal patterns of behavior, or there's reason to fear for the person's safety. And a member of the police service is unable to locate the person after making reasonable efforts to do so. So in a compilation of numbers provided by the Business Analytics Unit at LPS, we can see there's been a steady increase in the number of missing persons investigations completed by the London Police Service from 2021 to 2025. Moving forward into the Missing Persons Act, there are different means that the Missing Persons Act gives a police officer the ability to search for or obtain data that may assist in locating a person. The act was released provincially in Ontario in 2018, and it's been in use since then. One of the tools that the Missing Persons Act gives us is an urgent demand for records. We may make an urgent demand in writing through the use of a Form 5 to a company that is believed to hold data relating to the person. The records will assist in locating the missing person. And in order to obtain a missing persons production order under Section 4, the missing person may be seriously harmed or the records may be destroyed in the length of time that would take. Other factors to consider when we are attempting to utilize this tool under the Missing Persons Act is that we shall not make an urgent demand unless the officer is of the opinion that the public interest in locating the missing person outweighs the privacy interest. Obviously, when we make these demands, it gives us access to data that the person we are searching for may have a reasonable expectation of privacy to. And so this needs to be considered before the demand is made. The other point that's highlighted in the Missing Persons Act is that we must consider any information that the individual may not want to be located. For example, they may be fleeing a violent situation such as an abusive relationship, or they may just not have a relationship with the individual that's trying to find them. So both of these things are considered before urgent demands are sought, and often other resources are attempted to be exhausted before we attempt to breach the privacy of the individual in attempts to locate them. These are the types of records qualified for reporting purposes. These are what are mandated by the ministry that we must identify that each demand pertains to. That's a lot of words on the slide to say that there are 10 categories that each urgent demand may fall into. Each urgent demand will only qualify under one particular type of record. So even though we may submit an urgent demand to a single entity, we may obtain different forms of data from that entity that could fall under different categories. For the purposes of the London Police Service, since I have taken over the role in reporting, I tend to quantify the demand made under the category to the one that would potentially pose the largest privacy breach to that individual. I believe the purpose of tracking this by the ministry is to make sure police aren't abusing their powers to invade a person's reasonable expectation of privacy. And I think it's more important to know the more invasive privacy measures that we take in order to assist in locating a person than something, say, as other records or records containing potentially identifying information that we may already be aware of. Some of the trends that we can touch on that have been highlighted within this report is the significant increase in urgent demand requests in 2025. You'll see that that graph is coming up on one of the upcoming slides. I believe that the reason for this is twofold. One, it's an increase in comprehensive training that's delivered within the police service to the missing persons coordinator, both within the service and outside the service. At this point in time, the Ontario Police College does not offer formal training in the Missing Persons Act or the Missing Persons Coordinator role. However, in the past 2 years, the London Police Service has reached out to York Regional Police, who offer a full week-long training session through their experts in the subject matter. Sent the last 2 missing persons coordinators, myself and the one who preceded me. And it has been incredibly helpful in understanding the utility of this act and the urgent demands that come with it. The second reason that I believe we've seen an increase in the uptake of urgent demands in 2025 is that we had 2 constables assisting with reassigned missing persons investigations. So to clarify, when a missing person is reported to the police, the uniform division will investigate it initially. If they are unable to locate the person after making reasonable efforts, then it is reassigned to the missing persons coordinator, which at this time is held by just myself. In 2025, we were fortunate to have a second constable assisting, which meant we had 2 sets of eyes on investigations, meaning we were getting to them quicker and we were able to submit more urgent demands as a result. Speaking also on the trends of the types of missing persons investigations that London Police sees, and speaking from my experience in the role in the past year, We tend to see very prevalent types of missing persons investigations, specifically with missing youths in care. Obviously, these are very high-risk investigations, given the high number of vulnerabilities that are faced by youths. Also, with the increase of missing young females, the risk of falling in victim to human trafficking. The other types of missing persons investigations we see frequently are missing patients from treatment centers such as Parkwood Hospital, and community reporting of missing persons through either probation, shelters, or CAS youth care homes. So as I touched on earlier, we've seen a significant increase in the use of urgent demands from 2024 to 2025. I'd like to touch on the 122 urgent demands submitted in 2025 were in relation to 62 separate investigations. Often if the person's missing and we've exhausted reasonable efforts to locate them, the urgency increase in finding them more quickly. And sometimes one urgent demand will lead to the need to submit another urgent demand if there is data present that we need to clarify to help assist locating the person. For example, if we send off an urgent demand to a telephone company and they suggest that a phone is logged into an IP address, a second urgent demand may be required to identify that IP address to assist in locating it. These are the breakdown of the types of urgent demands. You can see most frequently urgent demands are submitted through FIPA, which is Personal Health Care Information Protected by the Privacy Act, and financial institutions for banking, as well as communication and location data, which are grouped as one collective. Part of the reason certain categories may see more prevalent use of urgent demands is because of the different policies for the release of that information by the company. Some companies will reply to the request based solely on the request. Other companies will require an urgent demand. Personal health records almost always require an urgent demand to access because of the privacy surrounding those matters. In conclusion, London Police Service is fully compliant with the reporting standards under the Missing Persons Act. We have a strong investigative and community support response. Myself and the Persons at Risk Coordinator, who I work alongside, do a large level of community relationship building to help support the vulnerable persons within the community that are being reported missing. We continue with ongoing community engagement and increased and improved education across the London Police Service.
Philippe, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Your knowledge is very evident, so thank you for the work that you do. I'm going to do the same thing that I did last one. Inspector Birch, do you have anything to add?
I think she's covered that.
Very good job. Deputy Chief Guilford, over to you.
Thank you, and Chair, through you. Just want to reiterate one of the points that Constable Lee brought up is just, you can see on the chart that our missing people numbers are increasing, right? And one of the areas that we do see that increase in is in missing youth under the age of 18, right? It's hard to say what the cause of that is, whether COVID had some play in that and the increased number of mental health issues with our youth because of that. But it's something that we are tracking, that we are concerned with. And again, with Constable Lee's work with the community at large to not only ensure that people are reporting missing people, but seeing what we can do with those community groups in order to help alleviate or help reduce the number of times where they need to call in a missing person, whether it's by introducing them with other sets of help when we find individuals who reportedly go missing. Like, what can we do to intervene to give them the help that they need in order to solve that issue? So I just wanted to touch on that.
Thank you, Deputy. Members' questions. Member Wallace, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the report. Two comments I have. And one, you can tell me if it's none of my business or not. But the first one is I'm a visual guy, so the chart spoke to me. You know, in 21 there was 800, and in 25 there's 1173. missing person reports, I would like to see a line on there, on the population growth for the city of London. So that I know on a percentage basis, whether it's increasing faster than the city's growing, or is it at the same pace, just for information. These, I future, I hope we'd like to see that if possible. The other question I had though, which I couldn't see it in the report, maybe it's none of my business. I don't see like and I don't even know if I'm using the right word, a clearance rate or a clearance. So of the missing persons that are, you've done reports on and so on, like, how many are you finding? Like, I don't know. It's nice to know, maybe it's not board's information, but, I didn't see it in the report, so I'd be interested to know.
Absolutely. I'll turn it over to Councilor.
Thank you. Our clearance rate is quite high. I would approximate it at around 99%. I would say we have maybe 1 or 2 outstanding missing persons investigations
Yes.
in the entirety of.
That's something you should be celebrating.
And we will
like that for everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll go to you first, Member Stevenson, then I'll go to you.
Yeah, thank you for the report. I was wondering, does it happen where the same individual might go missing more than once in a year, or are these unique individuals when we look at the reports?
No, that's absolutely a consistent factor that comes into play. Certain community partners have policies as to when they will report an individual missing, because we know when they're reported missing sooner, the odds of us being able to locate them faster are higher. So because of that policy, many youths that take off from CAS care are often repeatedly reported missing. Also, members that take off from Parkwood Hospital that require to return to hospital can be repeatedly reported missing throughout the year.
Yeah, thank you for that. It does identify a need in the community potentially. And I wonder if for future reports, that might be interesting to note, right? As to what impact that's having on these increasing numbers, but thank you very much.
Chief.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, just I'll add some clarity to the report. And I think with this report and the previous report, there's opportunities for additional and enhanced reporting to the board for your awareness. So under the legislation, under the Missing Persons Act, we are legislated to report urgent demands. We're not legislated to report all these other pieces, but it's important that the board understands this. So we're actually going to beef it up for future. So for context wise, the Missing Persons Act came into effect, as Cassandra said, in 2018 or 2019. The genesis of that act was a result of Daniel Trask. Daniel Trask was an individual that went missing, was reported missing, and later found dead. It identified what happened to us. It identified a gap in police investigations for how we would investigate missing persons investigations. How we obtain lawful information is through judicial orders, or warrants or search warrants or production orders. To obtain a search warrant, you need reasonable grounds to believe an offense has been committed. That's one of the first things you need, reasonable grounds to believe an offense has been committed. You see the gap when individuals go missing and there's no criminal offense. So if it's a kidnapping, we have reasonable grounds to believe a criminal offense has been committed. We will proceed in that fashion. Our authorities and our tools are there. The gap that was identified as a result of Daniel Trask, the tragedy that happened there was, what do police do when people go missing and we require information to try and locate these individuals? And what do we do when organizations have information that we need, but they say privacy, you can't have it? So that's the genesis of the Missing Persons. It's an actual tool, and I applaud the provincial government for enacting this. What you see on the trend of the additional demands, I would say that we need to look at it as a positive trend that our people are utilizing those tools. They know when to use the urgent demands. You're doing urgent demands, production orders within, or demand orders within the Missing Persons Act, and there's search warrant abilities for us as well. So as Cassandra outlined, we have the guardrails, and I would like to see that continue because it means they're tools that we're accessing, and it's an act that the provincial government put in play as a result of the tragedy with what happened in 2011. For the board's awareness and context.
Thank you, Chief. Member Lang, please go ahead. Thanks, Chair, and great report, you guys. This is it's very clear that you've got a really good handle on this. This is to follow up a little bit with what Member Stevenson brought up. I think it would be really helpful for me. Now, I remember being on ride-alongs, and we picked up the same individual 3 times coming from Parkwood because apparently they have to go to a certain place to smoke, and they just keep on going. Unique missing persons report would be an interesting thing to follow. I think the way the way you're reporting now is important because those are all unique visits, regardless if it's the same person or not. But I think from a general understanding, because we know resources are so scarce right now, deploying resources to pick the same person up 3 or 4 times over a 24-hour period is obviously a strain on the system. And I think it'd be really interesting for us to be able to see, you know, here's the number of occurrences, but these are the number of unique missing people over the period of a year. I think that would be helpful for me anyway.
Members, anything else? Okay, Constable Lee, thank you very much again, and it's very important work and hard work, and we appreciate it very much. If you can keep that 99% clearance rate. No pressure, but obviously one case that's not cleared is unfortunate to many, but that's incredible work by you and your colleagues, and the Inspector Birch, thank you very much for both those. I'll excuse you guys from being in the hot seat, and members, I actually will just make one correction. We will need a motion considering that these are we are obligated to receive these reports every year. They're mandated. I will need a motion to accept both 4.1, the hate and bias motivated crime report, number 2603 UD01, and number 4.2, missing persons annual report, number 2603 UD02. Moved by member Stevenson, seconded by member Lang. Further comments or questions? Seeing none. Anyone opposed? That's carried. Thank you very much. All right, we'll move to item number 5, and I'll just give them a moment to clear the room so they can go back to work. They were at work, but they're other work. That'd be great. We'll go to 5.1, which is before you, which is Executive Administration Professional Standards Branch. Start with 5.1, Section 81 regarding SIU Report 26003 EA01. I'll turn over to Deputy Weston.
Thank you, Chair. Just looking at my notes or just reports, I don't see that number, but I think I've got reports referencing. So the first I'll deal with is relates to an MVC, a motor vehicle collision between a police car and a vehicle driven by a civilian in November of 2024. That resulted in an initial investigation of that incident resulted in the belief that there were no serious injuries sustained. The information available to the supervisors at the time was that the person was not injured. That person, one of the people in the civilian vehicle, went to the SA directly about a month after the incident and notified them that they had been injured, or an injury had been diagnosed later. As a result, the SIU invoked its mandate to investigate. At the conclusion of that investigation, which cleared the officer driving the police car of wrongdoing, on the basis of the belief or the appearance that there had been a delay, an undue delay in notification to the SIU. The director of the SIU referred the complaint to the director of the law enforcement complaints agency for investigation. The director retained that complaint and investigated the conduct of the officer as well as the procedures in place by the LPS in relation to notifying the SIU. Had some recommendations or some suggestions for tightening up some procedure. However, cleared the officer and found that we've been run to the actuals. At the conclusion of that investigation, that cleared the way for our professional standards branch to investigate the conduct and the service provided as required by section 81. And it did so, finding that the officer had complied with the procedure. There was no evidence of misconduct, and that the procedures were sufficient to guide officers in responding. However, with respect to the items mentioned by the director of LECA, these are things that were, there are some items considered, taken into consideration for ongoing review of procedures as needed as time goes on. Subject to any questions, that's a report from the board's received.
Member? Seeing no questions, it's received for information purposes. Sorry, just for clarification, the report I'm referencing, bottom left-hand corner of the report there. That's just the one that I call it for the record, that's all. But that is probably a different one that you're using as well. So just to moving to 5.2, section 81 regarding SIU report 2603 EA02. Back to you, Deputy.
Thank you. And Chair, I see it now. I was referring to the actual SAU number. This one relates to an incident in October 2025 involving an injury to an individual in custody here at 601. An individual who had been arrested and was in custody in our headquarters detention unit was placed in a secure room to allow for a phone call to a lawyer. During the time that the individual was in that room, they began to smash the phone, damage the equipment, and punch the glass and bang their head against the wall and the door, which resulted in a cadet staff and a sergeant who oversees the cell block intervening to stop the individual from hurting themselves, damaging property. The individual was taken out of the room and resisted their efforts to take him or to restrain him. And as a result of an altercation or a struggle in the hallway, the officer used physical force, resulting in a fracture to the individual's head or face. As a result of that, the SA was notified and invoked its mandate, conducted an investigation, criminal investigation, which cleared the officer of any wrongdoing. At the conclusion or upon that report being received, the PSB initiated an investigation under section 81 and examined the conduct of the officer and procedures in place and found that the officer, there was no evidence of any misconduct on the officer's part, and that procedures and services provided were appropriate for the circumstances. Subject to any questions of the board, this is the report for its receipt.
Members? Seeing none, I will receive that. Thank you, Deputy. Appreciate it. Moving on. Item number 6 in your agenda, verbal updates. I'm going to change them up a little bit today. I'm going to leave it the chief.
Thank you, Chair. I got, and through you, 2 quick updates. The Deputy Chief Trinity Sweets at OPC today. She is representing myself and the organization where the intake at the Ontario Police College is graduating, I believe, almost 500 potential police officers from across the province. So we have a class of 15 graduating today at the Ontario Police College. They will then come back and commence their last leg of training with us before they are deployed with their training officers. So good day for families there. Second update I have for you is I just wanted to share with the board an incident that happened in February, mid-February, where one of our officers, Constable Nick McGlone, he was off duty driving on Highbury, and he saw a motorist in distress. The motorist was outside of his vehicle on the actual roadway in medical distress, and Constable McGlone performed CPR on the individual, provided aid and rendered assistance until EMS could get there. EMS got there, took over, took the individual to the hospital, and performed, continued life-saving measures. And that individual is alive today. So I wanted to share with the board for your awareness, Constable McGlone's actions, not only on duty, but off duty and representing the organization in such a way that we should be very proud of. So we will be looking at recognizing him in a more formal capacity, and that's going to be determined as we move forward. So wanted to share that story with the board. Subject to that, those are my verbal updates.
Yes, well,
Just a question on process from when you graduate from police college. Have they, the 15 you identified, have they technically been hired by us then?
Correct.
Okay, and then how long from the training then we do here, is it in the field? Like, are they sort of in an apprentice role with constables who are already on the force full time?
So, Chair, through you. So they'll come back for a number of weeks. We continue to evolve that training, roughly around 6 weeks of training in class with us, with our training unit. They will then move on to a coach officer, field training officer, where they will be paired up. Before they actually go on the road and are paired up, we will have the graduating and the badging ceremony.
Right, there was that one, so that's where I didn't know where that was in the stage.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when the board is present, and the board's always present there, it's a great day. They have just finished
The
training post Ontario Police College. After the ceremony, they will be deployed with field training officers. That's roughly around 3 months. And if they are qualified for an independent patrol, signed off by their training officer, they will then be independently on their own.
follow.
So just so if somebody asks, like from the day they graduate from police college to the day they're on the road in London doing great work for us, it's probably another 6 months.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
fair.
Okay, thank you.
Any questions on it? Chief Governance Officer Johansson, where's yours?
Chair, through you, I just have one update. It's with respect to the strategic planning consultation. So we're currently engaging with the community to get feedback on where the board moves forward with overarching priorities and objectives for policing in the city over the next 4 years. So we are working with Advanis, so they're an external agency that's assisting with the survey and all of that. And they've now set dates for our open to the public community forum. So this is where any member of the public can come and attend. There is a registration link that will be going out, but registration is not mandatory. So the two dates are, there's Tuesday, April 14th from 12 to 1:30 p.m. So we've got one session in the middle of the day, and then Tuesday, April 16th at North London Optimus Community Center, and that one's in the evening, so 6:30 to 8. And sorry, the first one on the 14th is at the YMCA of Southwestern Ontario. And we will be definitely putting more information out about this through a few different mechanisms with the registration link and the date and the details. And and we're of course always open to any questions or anyone who wants to submit feedback in any way that they can.
All right, I'll go last. I just wanted a few updates. First of all, I just wanted to mention, because it's circulating online there, that I previously presented on a panel with Phelps Search Group around the evolving role of police boards, in which I spoke about what builds public trust in policing and where does governance end and operations begin. The board's job, as I've always said, is to be a critical eye, but to be critical with purpose, not just be critical. So I was happy to join a colleague from out west who talked a bit about police governance on another part of our country, which I think was very eye-opening as well. So that's currently on social media. Unfortunately, she's not here today, but I did want to recognize that she's actually at the graduation ceremony at OPC right now, as the chief had alluded to. Deputy Chief Trina McSween was selected as the first Woman of the Year by the Essence and Culture Awards a couple weeks ago, of which many people in this room attended to really celebrate Deputy Chief McSween's accomplishments, what she's done both pre her time here in London and currently here on the command team of London Police Service. So we were all very, very proud to see her hard work recognized. She's made incredible gains here in London for us under her command. And I know I speak for everyone on the board when I say that, you know, we're really lucky to get the Deputy Chief McSween here from Hamilton. The Chief Governance Officer and I also attended the workshop of the Big 12 chairs and executive directors. So for those of you who don't know what the Big 12 is, it's the largest 12 police services in Ontario. So their police service board chairs and their executive directors or chief governance officers met in Hamilton. And we talked about various changes that are being made, including how the CSPA is now changing what we do as boards and the new regulations and requirements. And we also had a presentation from the Inspector General, Ryan Teschner, as well. So it was a very, very good 2 days. I also recently just participated in my 7th ride along since I've joined this board. And I made my first mistake when
The
addressing.
back seat or the front seat?
Always the front seat, always the front seat, but this is, I really take it very seriously that I try to get to as many units as possible and learn kind of what I'm voting on and what I'm trying to what I'm trying to guide through a board, both as a member and as a chair. So I really appreciate Inspector Ordino, Sergeant Dan O'Reilly, and the 4 section for welcoming me. I was able to speak to both parades. Unfortunately, the first parade, I invoked the Q word, wishing them hopefully a quiet night, which was a no-no. But it was a really, really good experience, and I really appreciate them. I know it's always different having someone, especially someone from the board, in their vehicle, but pretty much everyone on this board has done that, and it's an eye-opening experience and really helps us in the important governance work we do. So again, to Inspector Ordino, to Sergeant O'Reilly, to everyone in the 4 section, thank you for welcoming me, and I stay tuned. I may be coming to a unit of yours soon. I also just want to take a moment to before I conclude to wish everyone from our Muslim community here in London a very blessed Eid tomorrow, and they're coming out of Ramadan. So I just wanted to really note that and to say that we stand with you on this important day that's coming tomorrow, and for the sacrifice of the season that they've just been through in Ramadan as well. We had an excellent iftar dinner here that I was able to attend on behalf of the board that was put on by the chief in the service, and it was really a great opportunity to welcome members of our Muslim community and the Jewish community that were also in attendance, and to break fast with them. So that was very, very meaningful. I also wanted just to note too, before our next board meeting, that Passover will be celebrated by our Jewish community here in London. So we obviously wish them the very best as well. And I also want to note that before our next board meeting, our Christian community in London will be celebrating the Easter season also coming out of London. So a lot of very high religious holidays happening in the community, and want to wish everyone the best, whatever they are celebrating. And I also want to thank our men and women out on patrol for the work that they're doing, and our civilian professionals as well for keeping our places of worship safe and making sure that they see that presence and they see that community support, which has only been strengthened in the last few years under further strengthened, I should say, under the leadership of Chief Trong. So with that, board members, I'll look to see if there's any new business before I call for a motion to adjourn. Yeah, Chief, yes.
Sorry, Chair, through you. I forgot to add one verbal.
Yes.
Somebody turned 40 this week.
No.
On behalf of your administration there, sir, happy birthday, and you are no longer a baby.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief. So with that,
What is to say?
No, I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Moved by Member Stevenson, seconded by Member Wallace. Anyone opposed? That's carried. We're adjourned at 2:32 p.m.
Just a heads up that Tim Hortons lines tomorrow.